Hello, everyone. I'm Paul Lechner. I am the AVP of Product Management here at Appfire, and I'm excited today to talk about taking the guesswork out of managing Jira configurations for your enterprise. So today, I'm going to talk a little bit about Appfire. I'm going to talk about various business trends that are happening in the market and how that impacts Jira. I'm going to talk about 5 real-world scenarios and go through some various demos on how those scenarios play out using various tools provided by Appfire. So we'll talk about removing bottlenecks in your configuration. We'll talk about adding new users in bulk and really simplifying that process. We'll talk about fixing broken links after, say, migration from data center to the cloud. We'll talk about how you can manage change across various Jira instances and some different scenarios. And then lastly, talk about, what can you do to communicate change to key stakeholders across the organization. Lastly, we'll go into a little bit of Q&A. So I'm going to go ahead and turn my video off as I'll be switching back and forth between various demos, and I'll turn my video back on at the end. All right, let's get started. Okay. So first, let's talk about Appfire. So Appfire is a provider of marketplace apps for the Atlassian ecosystem. We have been in business for 17 years and have a lot of experience with Atlassian, being a partner since 2017. 12 years of those as a solution partner. Now we're focused completely on products and apps within the marketplace. We have a lot of experience across Agile, and in 2021, we were named the Atlassian Partner of the Year. Today, Appfire has over 200 apps in 9 solution areas, anywhere from BI and reporting to administrative tools. We have solutions across document management, and many more that encompasses 200,000 plus installs. And we have over 25 former founders that work for Appfire under one roof. So needless to say, we have a lot of experience in Atlassian tools and in the marketplace. So to begin with, let's talk about various trends that are happening within the marketplace. So 63, that's my first number, of high growth companies use hybrid work environments. So this is a new trend, but I think the takeaway really is that asynchronous work is becoming more popular and teams need powerful tools to collaborate to get their work done outside the office. Also of note that there's been a 44% growth in remote work over the last 5 years. And so this is really but this is a result of what's happening around the pandemic, but it's also a result of a larger trend in remote work and hybrid work. The next number is 288. This one actually really surprised me, but the average enterprise uses 288 SaaS apps, and that's up 30% over the year. So we see this increase in remote work reflected in our tooling. We have new workflows and processes, new integrations, apps. And this is just astounding, but really fulfills something that we like to say over here, is that teams want to use the tools they want to use. And so you can see there's lots of tools to use. The next number is 5.9 trillion, big number. So in 2021, globally, there was announced M&A volumes of 5.9 trillion. Of course, with technology sector leading in that transaction volume. You may think that maybe that's slowing down, and it may be in 2022, but there's still a lot of M&A activity. And what this means is that there's a great deal of work for the companies involved in the acquisition to combine systems, and often doing things like merging or splitting Jira instances. And my last number is 420,000. So this is another one that surprised me, but according to a recent report, miscommunication costs for companies that have over 100 employees can cost up to $420,000 annually. So from our own research and the stats provided, The first thing that becomes clear is that many businesses aren't good enough when it comes to communication with their employees. And that the organizations that are doing well, that are nailing their communication, are the ones that are succeeding, while those with poor communication techniques are really dogged by missed deadlines, lower employee engagement, and a lack of confidence in managers. And often this can result in this very costly result of $420,000 annually. What does this all mean? It means that businesses today require tools that support both synchronous and asynchronous work, and that will help them to create seamless collaboration in a period of lots of change. So let's jump right into it. So let's talk about an example where, as you manage your Jira instances across your enterprise, how can you remove bottlenecks in your configuration? So each one of these scenarios, I'm going to talk about the scenario actually in depth, and then we'll talk about what you can do natively within your own Jira solution, and then what you can do with some other tools. So to begin with, let's talk about this scenario. Users are experiencing slow performance in Jira, and Jira has been in use for, say, over 5 years. Hasn't been really any routine cleanup. There are likely unused objects and duplicate fields, and the company has undergone a lot of change over the years. So natively, what we do, you can run the native integrity checker and identify those issues that could be slowing things down. And ultimately, you can manually jump in there and modify these configurations. Of course, this can cause a lot of pain because manually doing it over a lot of different issues can be a lot of work. So what can you do? So let's resolve this issue with a couple tools that Appfire provides called Integrity Check for Jira and Power Admin. So this allows you to scan the entire system or selected projects, detect issues like missing broken boards, invalid JQuery, and duplicate objects. You can resolve issues with a single click. And then merge duplicate custom fields and deploy the changes throughout the system. Voila, you've just removed all these bottlenecks in your configuration. Let's look at a demo so that we can see this in action.
Integrity Check for Jira enables administrators to search their system for broken configurations, invalid or missing objects, things that may be causing problems on the system. And you can do it at the system level or project level, so you have flexibility there. You can also include filters, agile boards, and dashboards in your search. As we can see, Integrity Check found 10 violations and checked 144 configuration elements. We see a variety of duplicate objects, so this status testing has a duplicate. We have some invalid JQL. This epic link equals Jupiter should have quotes around it, so that's an error. And then we have a variety of other missing objects and duplicate objects. For example, this card layout has a reference to a missing custom field, so we'd want to remove the card layout reference to that field. And we also have a duplicate object here, my own issues. One of the great things about Integrity Check is that the UI provides links to directly navigate to the source of that issue. So we can click this here. We see we indeed do have two filters, my own issues, so we'll just easily delete that here. The app also provides a variety of quick fixes. So these buttons here where we can remove card layouts or remove role actors when there's missing or duplicate objects. There's also a handy quick fix button at the top here. So anything that's identified in our Integrity Check scan that has a quick fix, we can resolve all of those with one button click. And if we run Integrity Check again, we see now we're down to 4 violations found because we resolved several of those issues manually and with the quick fix option. Jumping over into Power Admin, this app allows us to scan system configurations by type or by name. So we have custom fields, projects, statuses, a variety of schemes, resolutions, and we select this magnifying glass here to see all of a specific type if we don't want to name a specific custom field by name. We can also search by name. So in this case, let's look for one with source in the name. We can see on the interface that it's configured in 16 projects and used in 6 issues. We see the screens that this custom field appears on. And say we've done some analysis to know that this custom field is very similar to another one on the system, and we want to merge the two. We can do that easily through the Power Admin interface. We'll just select the destination field that we want this source field to be merged with. It's conveniently named destination field. And the app presents us with some actions we need to take. So we need to actually specify how the merge will take place. And the main options here are merge and replace. If we merge these two custom fields, then we preserve the values and options from each of the custom fields in the result. Whereas if we replace, then we might actually lose some data. And that might be okay for your situation. So just pay attention here to whether you need the merge option or the replace option when you're merging custom fields. In taking a look at the values, we have the same options as well, whether we want to move values or lose values. So once everything looks good, you'll select confirm, and the next screen shows you a summary of the changes that will be applied once you select merge. So this allows you to review and go back in case anything looks incorrect. And on this summary screen, we see the issues updated, context changed, and configuration elements changed. So here's our destination field. Everything was merged from the source field into this destination. We can search again for our source field. Notice that it's still on the system. It's just not configured in any projects anymore.
Great. So in that demo, you can see that maintaining your Jira's performance and keeping your productivity in good shape is an ongoing effort, and you need to regularly run integrity checks on the system. All right, so let's go to the next example. So we need to add new users in bulk. So what is the scenario? So HR hands you a list of 500 users that need to be added to the Jira system. So you just had an acquisition and you wanted to upload these users in bulk. So in the native Jira solution, you would use the add user screen to populate these users in Jira one at a time. Of course, this is quite painful. 500 users one at a time could take some time. So what can we do? So let's resolve this with the CLI. So this is a command line interface tool that we provide, and that you can ensure that the column names from a CSV file, for example, fit Jira parameters. So you will type a one-line command and boom, voila, you've saved hours of pointless clicking and accomplished tedious bulk tasks like copying attachments, adding users, and more. Very simple. So again, let's look at a demo where we see this in action.
So let's say that after an acquisition, I received a CSV file with 100 users which need to be added to my Jira account. The new group which they need to be added to, which doesn't have any users at the moment. What I will do now in the ACLI shell is that I connect it to my Jira sandbox. Then I select the action run from CSV. I have to select the file which I have in my downloads folder in my case. And after I have selected the correct file, I have to then decide that I want to run an action, a common action for all of the items from the CSV file. And the action which I select in my case is add user. I close the command and I run it. As you can see, the first user, Cody has been added. I will check it in Jira. Okay, I can see one new user in the new group. You can see Cody here, same email. And as you can see, more and more are being added. I can follow this live in Jira, or I can grab a cup of coffee and just wait for it to finish.
Great. So obviously you wouldn't be able to grab your coffee if you're adding these one by one. So another great example of really automating a process which can be very tedious by using the right tool. All right.
So let's say that after an acquisition, I received a CSV.
My apologies. We'll move on to the third option or third scenario, which is fixing broken links after a migration. So in this scenario, you have linked various Jira tickets to Confluence instances, and you're going to migrate your Jira instance from data center or server to the cloud, and your Confluence web links are broken. So you need to update these. So natively, you have to go into each Jira ticket and manually update the Confluence link. Of course, think of all the number of tickets you might have. You get hundreds or even thousands of them. And this would be a lot of work, but there's a better option. So let's resolve this with the tool of PowerScripts. You can use JQuil to find the issues that you need to update those links. You then create a few lines of script in which you replace your old Jira links with new ones. Create a lookup to ensure that the page ID is correct. And ultimately, you just save hours, many hours, of copy pasting with a few lines of code. Again, great solution to a very simple problem. So let's look at a demo where we see this in action again.
What we have here are a bunch of issues. And inside these issues, we have links. Some are in the description, and some are down here in the issue links. And the problem is that right now they point to this innovaapps.atlassian.net instance, and we want to upgrade that to the Appfire instance because we've had a migration. We can do that using a tool called PowerScripts. So here I have a very simple script written already. And what this script does is just select those same issues we were looking at using JQuil. And then it loops through them and actually just displays the issue key like I have right here. What we can do is see what it would look like to replace the text in the description. So here I'm using the replace function. And if I just type the word replace, you can see that it automatically suggests the syntax for that. So we select the source, the target, and the replacement. The source is the description text from the issue, and we can just type the word description. And we're changing every occurrence of innovaapps.atlassian.net to appfire.atlassian.net. I've written some other code that will update the web links. It's a little bit more involved because I've added some challenges for the web links. I only want to update the web link where the summary unlink issue routine matches the link here. So if it's the unlink issue routine down here, I want to update that to Appfire. I want to leave the rest alone. So I'm going to go ahead and run that. And you can see I've actually created some HTML and I've created a log for myself. So I can see what was changed, that's in bold, and what wasn't changed in regular text. And you can even have the script output this to a file for your record so you know exactly what you edited and did not edit. So now if I refresh this issue because we've made changes to it, I go out to the link, you can see that just simply by changing innovaapps.atlassian.net to Appfire, it doesn't work because we didn't update the ID of this page. but I actually did add the code to go out and look for the new ID, because PowerScripts isn't just an automation tool, it's an integration tool. So now when we come to unlink issue, the rest were not updated, but unlink issue was. It actually points to the right page because I did a lookup. And hopefully you get an idea of how simple this language is to write, how quick you can write it, and how you can make some really, really powerful tools to do amazing things.
Great. Another example of really simplifying a process with a great tool that saves lots of time for you as a Jira admin.
Well,
all right, let's look at the fourth scenario, responding to a project change request. So a user requests a change to a project workflow and screen to follow a new department standard. So within Jira, you could do this, but you have to implement the change to a test system and then confirm that, that works. Then manually make that same change in production and hope it doesn't cause any problems. So again, not the best solution. There's a better option. So this is where we have Configuration Manager for Jira. So CMJ is a change management tool that really helps you in this process to do it in a very effective and simple manner by, one, creating a system clone that you can use for the staging purposes. You can put that changed workflow in there, see how it works, see how that proposed change will impact any existing projects, and really automating that deployment of those changes in staging. You can then make configuration changes on the fly and preserve those changes before deploying into production, and then ultimately really minimize the downtime and any kind of negative impact for the users. So a great example of how you can promote change within Jira. Again, let's go into a demo to see this in action.
Once the test and staging servers are set up, your first step is to implement the workflow and screen changes on the test server. In this case, we'll add a new status and transitions to the existing workflow for legal projects. We'll also update the Create Issue screen per their request to add the attachments field. Go through a few motions with the new workflow and screen to make sure they're behaving correctly. Once everything looks like it's set up and working correctly in the test server, it's time to move the new configurations to the staging server for user acceptance testing. Use Configuration Manager to create a project snapshot for the main legal project with the updated workflow and screen scheme from the test system. A snapshot represents the state of Jira configuration objects at a given point in time. They capture the state of the objects as well as their relationships to each other, so we use them to easily package and deploy configurations between servers. Next, download the snapshot from the test server and deploy it to your staging environment using the Project Merge mode. This mode ensures that changes will be made to existing projects rather than creating an entirely new project upon deployment. Prior to completing the deploy action, Configuration Manager will go through an analysis process and present a summary and detailed information about the changes to be applied. Review this report to understand how your proposed change impacts existing projects. Since the staging server is a close replica of production, take careful note of the impacts here. Once everything looks okay in the analysis, proceed with the deployment in staging. You can also review the audit log to give you greater visibility into each project or configuration that was impacted by the change. Then, notify the right stakeholders to perform user acceptance testing on this server, likely some individuals from the legal team in this scenario. They will make sure the desired workflow and screen change was implemented correctly, and no undesired changes or consequences were introduced as a result. The actual testing completed here will depend on the changes you made and may include the creation of issues, moving issues through new statuses to confirm they transition appropriately, and checking for updated screens and more. If there are any problems with how the system is functioning with the new workflow or screen, go back to the test environment and fix the errors. Reset your staging environment back to the clone of your production server, and deploy a new project snapshot from the test environment. Once everything is working as desired in staging, it's time to make the change in the production environment. The process from here is pretty similar as what we just did to deploy the project from test to staging, except now we create the snapshot in the staging environment and deploy it into production. Note that before you deploy to production, it's recommended to create a system-level snapshot for backup in case anything goes wrong. Also note that as a best practice, you should perform these changes during maintenance windows or weekends when users are less likely to be online. At this point, you shouldn't have any errors when deploying to production because you fixed all of those in staging. If you do, it's an indication that your production and staging servers weren't exact clones of one another. If that happens, don't fret. You can roll back to the previous state with the system snapshot you created prior to making the change. And that's it. You have your updated workflow and screen for the legal team.
Great. Hope you guys enjoyed that music. But overall, just another great example of how you can use these tools to really simplify a lot of great processes that you need to deploy into production by being able to test them out in sort of a test and a dev type environment before you roll them out to production. All right, let's talk about the last scenario, communicating key changes to stakeholders. So scenario is that you have a system-wide change that you are deploying, like migrating to Jira, migrating to a new Jira. Email and chat rooms are noisy. So for example, if you go into your big Slack announcements channel, often people won't see something. And you have notification of who has seen those important messages. And you really, at the end of the day, need to keep stakeholders informed. And it's crucial that these stakeholders get informed to the success of a project. So native Jira solution is that you have a basic announcement banner functionality. You can't really do a lot in terms of customizing it, and there's no targeting. You could also just use email or chat tools, but there's a better solution. So let's talk about Announcer for Jira. So you could resolve this by creating a custom announcement that you can display in Jira. You can target these messages to a specific set of users, projects, roles, or groups. And you can configure the scheduled messages or sync them with a status page incidents so that users are notified of crucial incidents. So again, another great opportunity to use a tool to do a specific task that enhances the core platform of Jira when you're trying to announce something system-wide that is changing. Let's go into a demo.
Let's start by navigating to Announcer for Jira within Manage Apps and selecting Announcements. To set up a new notification, select Add Another Notification. You can toggle the status of the announcement easily from the top here, and specify a title for the announcement that will appear for your users and within your configuration menu. In terms of formatting, you have HTML, plain text, and Markdown, and you can pull all of the content you need into this text box. There are a few different options for announcement types and the way that you want it to display on the page, as well as flexible icons depending on the category of message you might be sending. You can also filter it for specific groups. In this case, we're targeting the developers, so we'll select the Jira Software Users group. And we can optionally specify scheduling. So if we want the message to not appear until next week, we can set that up. We can also say run indefinitely or enable custom recurrence if we want the message to appear more than once and for users to be able to dismiss it more than once. Once you save it, your message will appear in this configuration menu. And because I'm also added to the Jira Software Users group, I see the banner when I navigate to my projects. Next, let's take a look at how that acknowledgement is reflected back for the administrator. One of the benefits of the app is that you have visibility into who has seen your message, so there's less guesswork. I also want to show you the status page integration. If you're using statuspage.io to communicate incidents within your organization, this is a great way to bring that communication into Jira. So let's say there's a system outage and our internal IT system is working on it, and they want to communicate to the organization that they're investigating the issue. So they set up that incident, and then back over in Jira, because we've already set up that integration with Announcer for Jira, we don't have to do any extra work to configure the actual announcement. It does take a minute because we set a polling frequency at a minimum of 1 minute. So in the meantime, let's set up another announcement type, perhaps something to do with completing an employee survey, which we all know and love to do. This time we'll specify a flag type announcement and show you what the warning icon looks like. And because a minute has passed, we see not just the announcement we just created, but also our status page incident. When you look back over the project view, both of these new announcements show up, which is great. And anytime the status changes for that incident and that 1 minute polling frequency has passed, a new announcement will be reported to the user. And that's Announcer for Jira.
So you can see that Announcer was a great example of a way to provide messages out to your Jira users in very specific manners that often couldn't be done in something like email or, for example, a general messaging channel. So let's recap. So I give you 5 different scenarios of how to manage Jira across your enterprise. So we began with looking at integrity check and power admin, and remove duplicate and missing objects with this quick fix, and merge similar custom fields. With CMJ, we went into an example of how to manage change and removed system bottlenecks and merged custom fields and migrated data for testing. With the ACLI command line interface, we really simplified a process by being able to add an entire list of new users, in this case, many, 500 plus, through just one single command. With Power Scripts, we wrote a simple script to update old web links in a scenario where it would take a lot of time to actually update these individually. And then lastly, we looked at Announcer and looked at how you could communicate key migration timelines and status pages, and many other type of messages that you want to get across in Jira. So these are all free on the marketplace today, and you can try them all out. I'm going to pop my video back on here. And I just want to thank you for your time today. I hope some of these scenarios were useful and the demos were useful. And I want to thank you. If you have any questions, I'm happy to take questions now.